Have you ever looked at the news and thought, wait, every country is in debt, every single one? The US, in debt. Japan, in debt. France, Brazil, South Africa, all in debt. So, who are they borrowing from? Who do they owe? And if everyone owes money, then who's actually rich? Let's break it down simply. So now, the big question, who do they owe all this money to? Surprisingly, most countries owe money to themselves. Let's take the US as an example. Of its 34 plus trillion debt, over 70% is owned by domestic entities, US banks, pension funds, and even citizens. Around 20 to 30% is owned by foreign countries like China or Japan. And a big chunk is owned by the US Federal Reserve, its own central bank. So in reality, a lot of the debt is money the government owes to its own people. Kind of weird, right? National debt is the money a government owes when it spends more than it collects in taxes. Let's say your country makes $100 billion a year from taxes, but spends $120 billion on healthcare, education, roads, defense, you name it. That extra $20 billion, it has to be borrowed. And that's the start of debt. But how do countries borrow? They don't walk into a bank. They issue something called government bonds, which are like IOUs. People, banks, companies, even other countries can buy these bonds. They lend the government money in exchange for interest. It's like the government saying, hey, lend us money now, we'll pay you back later, with a little bonus. You might ask, why don't countries just pay it off? Well, most modern economies don't try to eliminate debt. They just manage it. They roll it over, borrow more, and try to grow the economy faster than the debt grows. It's like paying the interest on your credit card, but never fully paying the balance. Why? Because debt allows governments to stimulate the economy during downturns, fund wars, infrastructure, or emergency spending, promise services without raising taxes too much. Debt can be a tool when used wisely, but if it grows too fast or becomes unmanageable, that's when things get shaky. Not all debt is bad. If a country borrows to build roads, schools, invest in people, it can boost productivity and future income. That's good debt. But if a country borrows just to pay salaries, cover deficits, or win elections with no long-term gain, that's bad debt. Imagine borrowing money to start a business versus borrowing to buy lottery tickets. Same principle. What happens when countries can't pay back their debt? Well, they default. That means we're not paying, sorry. It's rare for rich countries, but it happens. Greece in 2015, Argentina several times, Sri Lanka in 2022. Default usually leads to currency collapse, inflation, economic crisis, loss of trust from investors, and the people suffer the most. But rich countries like the US or Japan, they borrow in their own currency, which gives them more control. In extreme cases, they can just print more money. Not ideal, but technically possible. Here's the twist. The global financial system depends on debt. Governments borrow. Investors buy debt to feel safe. Banks use it to store value. National debt is part of the engine that keeps the modern economy running. So while trillions in debt sounds scary, it's more like oxygen for global finance. Too much is dangerous, but none at all, the system collapses. So next time you hear, your country is in massive debt, ask, to who? At what cost? And why? Because sometimes the debt isn't the problem. It's what we do with it. Debt can fund progress or feed disaster. It can empower nations or enslave them. It's not about whether we have debt. It's about whether we understand it. And now, you do. Thanks for watching Knowonomics. Subscribe for more simple explanations about money, power, and how the world really works.